It's February 22nd, 2020, and the Maple Leafs are set to play the Carolina Hurricanes at home in Toronto. They had played once before this season, which was a barn burner of a game. The Maple Leafs ended up winning 8-6 after being down 5-3 going into the third, and that game was just 2 months prior, and since then, both teams have been battling in what was such a tight playoff race in the Eastern Conference. The Maple Leafs went into that game with a 32-22-8 record for 72 points. This had them sitting in the third Atlantic spot, with the Panthers right behind them with 70 points and a game in hand. The Hurricanes came into the game with a 34-22-4 record, which was 6th in the Metro, but that's sort of misleading. Metro at the time was incredibly tight. Every team except the Devils pretty much were still in a playoff race. But having a tight Metro division also makes for a tight Eastern Conference as a whole. See, in the NHL, the top 3 teams from each division make the playoffs, then the next 2 teams in the conference make the playoffs as the wildcard team. So right now, the Hurricanes were actually outside of the playoffs, even though they were tied in points with the Leafs. And with just 20 games left in the season, the Hurricanes were fighting for every point they could, especially against Eastern Conference teams. So the puck is dropped in what was going to be a very good game considering the history between these two teams and the state of the playoff race at the moment. The Hurricanes started the game early with a partial break from Svechnikov, and Anderson barely kicks it off the goal line. I mean, it really can't get much closer than that. And then just 2 minutes later, the NHL's leading goal scorer with 43 goals through the first 62 games of the season came flying down the left wing, pulls a nice stick handling move on Pesce, circled the net and tried to find Marner, but before he could even receive the pass, Hyman had already cross-checked Jacob Slavin into James Reimer. This would unfortunately hurt Reimer, making him leave the game. Now, obviously, this is bad for the Canes. The goalie is the most important part of the team, and losing one just throws a wrench in everything. But luckily, they have 2 very serviceable goalies in James Reimer, of course, and Peter Mrazek, who came in to take his place. The game went on from there, and Anderson made yet another huge save. Mrazek was tested and stood tall, but the Leafs were the ones to break the ice late in the first period with a goal from Alex Kerfoot. So the Leafs started the second period with that 1-0 lead, and they continued to get solid goaltending from Freddie Anderson. I mean, he was just seeing the puck really well and making the right decisions. And then right as you were starting to think that, bam, the Canes strike with a goal from Lucas Wallmark on a play where it looks like Freddie just lost his net and Wallmark was there for the open net. And that seemed to have opened up the floodgates for Carolina as Niederreiter scored and then Foegele scored, making it 3-1 Carolina. But things took a bad turn for them just moments after Foegele's goal, as Kyle Clifford was chasing down a loose puck and absolutely destroys Mrazek.
A heavy collision with Gauthier, and Mrazek is down, and it all breaks out.
I mean, it was a yard sale. Clifford went flying, Mrazek's helmet and stick went flying, and then of course, whenever a goalie gets touched, a fight ensued. Mrazek does have a past and sort of flopping for a chance to give his team an advantage, but this wasn't one of those times. He got leveled and had to leave the game, unfortunately. Clifford did get assessed with a minor for charging, but the Canes still needed a goalie. So here enters the 42-year-old Zamboni driver, David Ayres, to play against the organization that employs him. But Ayres isn't just any goalie. He can definitely play, as he was the practice goalie for the Leafs and the Marlies. Now, you may be asking yourself, who is this guy and how was he the one to end up playing in an NHL game? Well, Ayres is what you would call an emergency backup goalie, or E-bug, and they come in during very rare occasions like the one you're witnessing right now. But there have been a few other E-bugs that have played in the NHL, 5 others besides Ayres to be exact. Jorge Alves had a pretty cool hockey journey. He played in the ECHL and SPHL, clocking in just 9 games between 2004 and 2007. He then joined the Hurricanes as an assistant equipment manager in 2003 and then went full-time in 2012. Then on December 31st, 2016, he became an emergency backup goalie for the Hurricanes due to Eddie Lack's illness and got to play the last 7.6 seconds of a game, setting a record for the shortest NHL career. The next season saw Scott Foster play for the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, if you Google his name, it does say Canadian accountant, but he did spend a little time in the NHL. He got called up by the Blackhawks as an E-bug on March 29th, 2018, after Anton Forsberg got injured. Forsberg was filling in for Corey Crawford, who was out with a concussion, and Foster, who had never dressed for a game before, wasn't expected to play. but when Colin D'Elia, who started the game, got hurt in the third period, Foster had to step in. He saved all 7 shots he faced in about 14 minutes of play, helping the Blackhawks secure a 6-2 win and earning him the first star of the game. On April 29, 2022, both Anaheim Ducks goalies got hurt during a game against the Dallas Stars, so Thomas Hodges, a life insurance salesman, stepped in as the E-Bug. Wearing a Stars helmet and pads and sporting the number 68 for the Ducks, he played the third period. He made 2 saves on 3 shots, allowing a game-winning goal unfortunately, but despite the loss, he got applause from both teams and fans, earning the third star of the game and keeping his game-worn jersey and puck. Matthew Berlin joined the University of Alberta Golden Bears in 2019 and was an E-Bug for the Avalanche in 2022 and then for the Oilers in 2023, where he played the last 2 minutes of a game against the Chicago Blackhawks and saved his only shot in a 7-3 win for the Oil. And the most recent E-Bug appearance was Jet Alexander. With a minute left in the game and Toronto up 7-1, Alexander went in and faced no shots. But the most notable of E-Bugs is obviously David Ayres, and that's because what's about to unfold in this game. So Ayres comes in rocking his Toronto Marlies helmet and gear, but with a Carolina Hurricanes jersey on. He took a few warm-up shots, and I know he's closer to the NHL than I'll ever be, but watching him warm up, I would not feel too comfortable. And his first play wasn't a save, it wasn't even a goal against. He came out to the bottom of the circle to clear the puck away from an incoming Leaf player, and believe it or not, but this directly led to the Canes' next goal, so you might as well give Ayres an assist on that one.
Speaking, I'd say that's a routine play by a goaltender, but when you're an emergency backup,
Nothing's routine.
that is consequential by Ayres.
But then the Leafs came down to try and test out the new netminder, and yeah, Tavares kinda just turns and throws this one on net and it goes right through the 5-hole of Ayres. Then just a minute later, the Leafs got another one on the very next shot. The shot from the point hits Gardner and bounces right to Pierre Engvall for the open net. And honestly, this one isn't even Ayres' fault. But from there, the Canes absolutely shut down defensively, and with the help with this save against Matthews, they survived the second period, still being up 1 goal. The third period starts, and the Hurricanes know that they need to play the absolute best defensive period they ever had. And this is no knock against Ayres, but when you're going up against one of the best offenses in the league, you have to be on your toes, especially with a 42-year-old Zamboni driver in net. And it's definitely much easier to do that when you add 2 early third period goals, which they got from Warren Foegele and Marty Necas, to make it 6-3 Hurricanes. And this Zamboni driver picked up his play and actually made some key saves like this one here on Hyman.
Kerfoot, Hyman, what a save!
And as time was winding down, he made one more save to secure the win and the first star of the game. And what a feel-good moment. I mean, it was for every single fan base except the Leafs. The Maple Leafs are obviously the biggest laughingstock in the league. Ever since that collapse in 2013, everything that they've done has been put under a microscope and has been scrutinized. But for this one, you don't need a microscope. They just lost to never mind, I'll let Steve take this one.